Yo, what's up, everybody? Hope you all doing well. Thank you so much for rolling through. Let me know if I'm too loud. I boosted up the audio from last week since everybody was saying it was too low, so hoping that it is much louder and better this time around. So let me know. Keep me posted in the comments. What up, J-Dos? I see you over on YouTube. I see Cam over there hanging. Sounds good? All right, beautiful. Let's get into the show. We got a lot to talk about. It's going to be a pretty quick show. We only have like 2 big topics to talk about, but excited to dig into those and to more on the show. So massive love to everybody for hanging out on a Sunday afternoon.
Spawn On Me is the premier podcast spotlighting people of color. Every week, we talk news, what we've been playing, and tell you who's invited to the cookout. Our show is all about talking about gaming through a prism of blackness, because we are the culture. Welcome to Bukaka, y'all.
Yo, what up, everybody? This is the Spawn On Me podcast with Khalif Adams. I'm your host, Khalif Adams. Welcome. This is episode 517 of our show. It is a wonderful, lovely Sunday afternoon, hanging, and chilling with everybody out there in the world, making sure that you all having a fantastic week with some great conversations around video games and around the world at large. And I'm here to talk to you about all of that goodness here on our show this week. If you missed last week's show, we had the fam Cam Hawkins rocking with us, hanging and chilling and making sure that we were doing our due diligence over at Summer Games Fest. So we had a chance to go over some of the work that we did at Summer Games Fest, which was super cool, a lot of fun. And I have to say, you know, if you missed some of our coverage, please go check it out on YouTube. It is up on our YouTube channel. We have some content go up on our TikTok as well, which we're trying to grow. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, and hopefully we can match that on TikTok as well. But we'd love your support over there. Please subscribe. Go check out the content. And there's a fat playlist that has all the videos that we did over at Summer Games Fest this year. So massive love to everybody who's been checking it all out. I have been hanging and doing my thing and rocking, and it's been just a super fun week to be able to kind of get some rest. I've been working a little bit harder on losing weight. That's been a big part of this summer. I'm trying to get summer fit, even though we're kind of already in summer, so that hopefully when you see me in another 5 months, you're like, yo, who that other dude that's over there that I didn't see before. So very excited to be able to kind of do all of this and have a lot of fun, and also like trying to rebuild the studio, trying to find some more work in terms of side projects that are actually paying some money. There's a lot of stuff out there right now that I'm trying to, you know, put my hands on and figure out good ways to pull into the fold for Spawn On Me. I think, you know, every year, you know, depending upon how the year goes, things move in a lot of fast directions. So, you know, the podcast is moving in one way, and Spawnies is continuing to grow in a lot of different ways, and trying to figure out how to expand that show to make it super dope for everybody at home. So there's a lot of stuff that goes along with making a show like this and running a business and all those things. And it's been really cool to have all of you along for the ride for, God, our 10th year of doing this dope work. So it always is fun to be able to kind of think about that in the biggest ways. This week we have two big stories. Well, one story that was the biggest story of the week, and one that was a self-imposed story because I was tweeting about a thing that I am passionate about, and people were passionate back in the not nicest ways. But, you know, when you throw out a controversial topic, then people will get at you in the ways that the internet does. So as mean as some of those conversations were, it was a good and interesting telling of how people are thinking about things that we interact with every day, and how they're kind of thinking about the ways that we play and the ways that we engage with certain parts of the gaming ecosystem that we dig into in ways that we don't even recognize are not necessarily affecting us, but they have an implementation of how there's a connected feeling to the implementation of a certain thing. And once you understand some of those things, you kind of have to look at it differently. And also you have bigger hopes and dreams for some of those conversations in a larger way. I've been playing a ton of Elden Ring. We're going to talk a little bit about a game that I've been playing of late too, that is something that, you know, is out of my wheelhouse, but I'm enjoying it towards the back half of the show. But the first topic that we got to get into this week is a real one, and is going to have some discussions in it that I'm sure are going to probably be not controversial, but raise some hackles of people who, I don't know. You'll see. First story up this week on the big show is wop. Dr. Disrespect, if you have not been paying attention over the last 48 hours on the internet, there has been some controversy around the former biggest streamer on the planet and a gentleman whose improprieties have been found on multiple occasions. And now we might have some clarity on one of the biggest we don't know what happened segments of 2019 and 2020 when Dr. Disrespect was unceremoniously removed from Twitch and was banned from the platform in a way that was very, very different. I think it was unprecedented in the ways that we had seen. Like, we had seen bad actors do stuff in multiple ways before. We had seen, lots of things happen with, players and people being mean and shitty and harassment and off-site and off-platform issues that have happened in a lot of different ways. But this time, we get a chance to see all of it go down kind of in real time. And it's been very, very interesting to see how this has transpired. So, a couple days ago, a gentleman named Cody Connors came up and shared a tweet. And, on a Friday, news doesn't break like this. And on a Friday, usually everything is super chill and most things are calm and people are kind of rolling into the weekend and hanging out and getting their stuff together. And a very semi-cryptic tweet came out of Cody in a way that raised everyone's eyebrows in a way that I haven't seen in a long time either. So the following tweet was shared by Cody Connors. So everybody was like, who the hell is Cody? Cody says he got banned because he got caught sexting a minor in the then existing Twitch Whispers product. He was trying to meet up with her at TwitchCon. The powers that be could read in plain text. Case closed, gang. So you have that kind of pop up and you have this moment where, the discussion is happening around what Dr. Disrespect is doing. What does this mean for the larger context of the conversation? What does this mean for who are we talking about? We don't even know who's being discussed, but it felt like everybody knew who this discussion was about. And it was something where everybody who was paying attention was like, oh, okay, so who's he talking about? What does this mean? But every reply underneath that tweet was leaning towards one person, and it was Dr. Disrespect. Now, mind you, other folks had left platform at that point who were really big. Trainwreck TV had left because he wanted to go to make Kick. Some other large streamers had gotten banned for improprieties and bad behavior. And all of these things kind of bubbled up in 2019 and 2020. We covered this in 2019 on our episode titled Dr. Disrespect Should Go to Jail. And we started to piece some of these things together and we were like, all right, well, fine. Let's try to track down who these people are who are having these discussions. Because not only was it the audience of social media saying, oh, they're talking about Dr. Disrespect, then you started to see all of these other folks who were either previous Twitch employees or journalists who have been covering this story or covering a story around this. And folks who are not just like regular people. It wasn't just random people on the internet who were starting to chime in on this and kind of dig in and say, eyebrows raised and saying, yeah, yep, we kind of know, we kind of see what the deal is and all this stuff. And then you start to see all of that kind of transpire and you're like, all right, that's weird. That doesn't happen in the industry. Like, people don't out people like this in the industry where everyone knows each other. Relationships are built around those relationships that of knowing and understanding who people are and what connections they have and all that kind of stuff. And it doesn't happen to people who are in this kind of still elevated position. Dr. Disrespect is still making millions of dollars. He is still getting brand deals in lots of different ways. He is still a well-known face in the gaming and esports world. He's currently co-founded a gaming company that's working in the Web3 space. He's been doing that. He's been working with Robert Bowling, who former a developer on the previous Call of Duties way back in the day, to make this, extraction shooter that's based around Web3 and blockchain stuff. So people started to put the pieces together, and then you had to look it up. And it was like, well, who's Cody? And Cody was the former account. Let me make sure I'm getting it right. At Twitch, former account director of strategic partnerships. Cody was that dude. So it's not like he wouldn't know, right? There are lots of different stuff out here around all of this piecing of all of these things together. And I think, Vicious696 Paris Lily in the chat says, my only issue with this is out of the nowhere timing with zero evidence. Got to bring receipts with this type of accusation. I say, yeah, of course, right? Like, I think the scuttlebutt that has come up after that has been a lot of those parts of those conversations. But I think even with that said, of course, no one wants to be, accused of doing a thing and they're actually not, they haven't done that thing. But the E3 incident in the bathroom, and it was a child in that bathroom, that was weird. And then the response from Dr. Disrespect was also very, very weird, because usually in these moments, what PR will tell you, and especially disaster PR will tell you, is don't say anything. Don't release a statement. Don't say anything on social media. Don't have any discussions without talking to your lawyer. None of these things are the things that you would do if you were paying attention and you had the right people around you. But the response was extremely weird. And the response was, listen, I'm obviously tied to legal obligations from the settlement with Twitch, but I just have to say that what I can say is that this is the fucking internet. I didn't do anything wrong. All of this has been probed and settled. Nothing illegal. No wrongdoing was found, and I was paid. He's going to play some Elden Ring. There was another tweet that preceded that was basically in that same vein, and also just like didn't have that full-throated, like, I didn't do it, right? I didn't have anything to do with it. That wasn't me. That's not of my character. It's not of who I am as a human being. It wasn't any of that. It was basically like, yeah, we went through the legal process and they said that I wasn't guilty. But it doesn't mean that there wasn't any impropriety. Even within that statement of, did you sex the child? A minor. Saying I didn't do anything wrong is different than saying I didn't sex the minor. That's different. That's a different conversation. That's a different tone. Is a different layer of separation between you and an incident that you have to raise, knowing that the internet will take any story and they will run with it. The court of public opinion is always going to win. It doesn't matter if you're innocent. It doesn't matter if you are, if you've done a little bit of it. Even if you are innocent in all of those things, there's going to be a certain layer of the folks who are outside of the conversation and outside of the incident who are going to just believe it. That is an unfortunate part of the internet. But also, even if that's the case, you have to do everything you possibly can within legal means to be able to share that you didn't engage in the act that everyone is saying that you engaged with. Fast forward to today, and Ash Parrish over at The Verge has a story up on their site that has at least another former Twitch employee saying that there was some impropriety here with a minor, and that there was some communication happening with a minor, and that he was at some point looking to meet up with that minor at TwitchCon. That's two people saying this from Twitch that are no longer there. that are but one, we don't know who the other one person is. Cody, if you're the head of strategic partnerships and that person got banned, then there has to be some conversation here about whether that person has the credibility to say a thing. And I think to a certain extent, the bigger conversation here about like, what is the actual evidence that you can see? The secondary layer of now we're seeing all of these conversations come out of former employees of Twitch. Why wasn't anything said previously in a way that would signal that this person was doing all of those things? And to be fair, we have a lot of pieces at play. One, the person was a minor, so there's a lot of legal ramifications for having that person publicly speak out about an incident that they were involved in any way that could be legally reprimanded, or you could be sued for libel, all of those things. There's a lot of different things in that conversation. And like, there are just too many pieces for us as the public to fully be able to engage with all of the pieces. I will fully cop to the fact that much of this stuff is speculation. I do believe, though, that the folks who were in those threads who were saying the most of what they were saying, one, felt validated for the stuff that they had been looking at and paying attention to. Two, are fairly well-trusted sources within the video game industry that I think a ton of us pay attention to on a daily basis. I saw Slasher come out of the fucking ether and who hasn't tweeted in forever, and was like, basically was like, yo, I wasn't wrong. I wasn't lying. And for that to be a thing for those people to come out, I think where there's smoke, there's fire here. And I think, me as a person who has not really appreciated what Dr. Disrespect brings to the industry, nor the attitude and the racism that has come out of his mouth over multiple years that he's had, with that, you have that compounded with the bathroom incident. You have that compounded with the cheating on his wife incident. You have that compounded with the connections to other streamers that are also bad actors, Nick Merckx being one of the bigger ones. All of those things wind up adding up into the bucket of like why you don't like somebody. But why you don't like somebody doesn't mean you can accuse them of being a pedophile. That's reasonable to say. But on the other end of that coin, other side of that coin, there are way too many people who are smart, who would not want to ruin their own reputations by saying a thing like this out loud, and saying this thing on the public record that they could then go back and be like, if Dr. Disrespect, Guy Beam wanted to sue them for being a part of that conversation loop, he could totally do that. He could totally be like, hey, I don't want to, like, you said a thing about me that's not true, and we can legally bring about, a lawsuit against you. Like that's a reasonable thing to say if you're going to talk about all of those conversations, while also saying who are the people who are of note, who are digging into this discussion and having it in real ways. Now the conversation has moved over to not only is Dr. Disrespect guilty of doing this thing, but how much did Twitch know? And during the process of Twitch knowing, why didn't they say anything in a way that would put this person, in law enforcement's hands? Here's my speculative take. I don't think if you're Twitch that at a certain like you have to go through the whole process, right? Because one, whispers at that time were private, at least from the ways that I've always known them to be. When they were implemented, they were private. I don't know if you are a part of trust and safety at Twitch, if that supersedes the privacy that is in those conversations when and if someone brings up a report about bad acting or potentially law enforcement leaning acts that are happening on your platform. One, that's a huge liability for you as a platform. Two, as a platform that has been and for a long period of time has been connecting with a younger demographic, This raises a huge red flag for anyone who's like, oh, I want my child on Twitch to be able to watch their favorite streamer. And you know that there's correspondence between kids and potential adults because kids don't understand the rules of engagement with a lot of stuff. They're like, I look up to this person who is the biggest superstar in my world, in my ecosphere, and why wouldn't I go send them a message or whatever it may be to tell them I love them or I like them or whatever. Kids do wild stuff. And parents are supposed to be there to kind of curb a lot of that stuff and make sure that happens. And on the other side of that, if you're the streamer who gets that message, you have to cut all ties with that person. You have to do it. There is no correspondence there that you're supposed to have. If you find that, well, the only other layer of that too is like he didn't know that person was a minor. Right? That could be that's a feasible response. That's a feasible conclusion that we might have. That person might not have known that they were a minor. But someone in that chain during that conversation loop with the conversation of, hey, why don't we meet at TwitchCon? There has to be something in your brain that says, at least at the very minimum, to save my own ass, how old are you? What? I grew up in the AOL age. I'm old. Yes, I said it out loud. The first thing you would ask anybody is ASL, age, sex, language, right? Well, like, you know, it was a part of AOL world when I was growing up. It was a thing you asked people. If you were on a platform and have this many fans, how do you not ask, yo, how do you not ask, how old are you? You're asking this person to potentially meet up in real life. And you don't ask how old you are? How stupid do you have to be? It's location. I'm sorry. Language is not language, it's location. Thank you, Thirsty Panda. It's location. ASL. We're old. Anyway. Chat. Damn it. Telling me things that I remember. Anyway. But again, to save your own ass, to not put you in a position when you have millions of dollars on the line and you have a reputation to uphold and you have I'm still getting over the location part. All right, I messed up. My bad. And you have multi-million-dollar deals that are being put on your table every day or every however long it may be. How do you not safeguard yourself? And better yet, how do you not safeguard your family? You had done all this work to get back with your significant other, with your wife, after there was impropriety there and you cheated on her publicly, or at least it was found out publicly. And then you're like, man, dodged a bullet. Yo, shorty, yo, why don't you meet me at TwitchCon? I don't even know how old you are, but why not? What? What in the crackhead business is this? I don't understand. I think maybe when you get to a certain level of fame, like reasonable levels of common sense just magically fly out of your brain. I want to be that rich, but I don't want to have that layer of the conversation happen in that way because that's pretty stupid. It is wild to say that that's a part of the conversation. And I'm like, what is going on? How does that work? What does that mean? How are you trusted with business? How are you trusted with money? How do you do that? How are your friends not telling you? Because that's the thing. Like most people do dirt in the quietest of spaces. I doubt he and Nick Merckx are sitting around playing COD. Yo, bro. Hey, bro. Yo, would you fix this dent in my head? If you do, I'll tell you how to date these young girls and nobody will know. I'm like, what? What is happening? Do you tell your friends This is a thing that you do? Is this a thing that you ask the advice of your peers to be like, how do I get away with this? Is this a thing that you even go to and be like, hey, this has happened to me. What would you do in this situation? And I'm sure everybody who's a fucking adult would be like, ask them how old they are. Like, come on, man. What are we doing out here? You got that happening, and then you got your homeboys talking about, 16 is the age of consent in many states. What are we doing here? What are we doing? Hurrah. What is happening? So, a lot of those things are happening. Go read that piece on The Verge. I think that gives a little bit more clarification. I do the spotlight not being on Twitch and them potentially covering up for this impropriety and for him being a bad actor, I think is a reasonable thing to discuss. I think of all the pieces that are here, I think that is the most interesting layer of the conversation that we will probably get the least amount of clarity on. Because there's way too many legal ramifications. A lot of those people have left. A lot of people who have been doing that work, and the kind of landscape has changed a lot for Twitch. I think they've gotten a lot stronger in terms of their terms of service. I think they've laid down some really important rules and bans for some of that conversation. But, he's already gone and he's already done his thing. Things that are also interesting is that YouTube didn't pick him up to give him a new contract, at least from what I can tell. I could totally be wrong on that. Again, clarification. If that's wrong, please tell me. But the place that would best fit him and would fit not only his brand but his style of streaming would be Kick. And they didn't offer him, or if they did, we don't know about it. But you would think Kick would have given him the bag, or like Clown Jones says, or Rumble, right? Two of the most conservative. You can say whatever you want. We don't care. Do whatever you want. Say all the weird ratchet shit. Rumble and Kick. They got Aiden Ross as their fucking mascot. And they didn't pick up Dr. Disrespect on the cheap. Throw him some money to go gamble in the Champions Club. Toss it up in the Champions Club. You know what I mean? But he out here talking to A minor. Like, what? What is happening? What is going on? So I think the conversation is gonna be interesting, and it's gonna get extremely messy for everyone involved at some point. They've fulfilled his contract in whatever legal ramifications that mean. Maybe again that was some legal. We have to do it because we did something to find out that you did something wrong without your permission. Maybe. Maybe who knows? Also, Twitch contracts were very, very Wild West in the times that Tim the Tat Man was getting a contract, Nick Merckx was getting a contract, Ninja, and all these other folks were getting these big contracts. All that stuff was a little different. People were getting sweetheart deals with stipulations all over the place that would just allow you to get away with some stuff. Darth Burrito in the chat says, "Yeah, Doc is on YouTube." Do we know if he's being paid? Do we know if he's being paid by them? Someone in the chat, let me know. But all that to say, man, that cat got caught in 4K. And again, going back to what Paris said with the conversation about evidence here, I think yes. You never want to see an allegation this big and this bad put on Front Street for people to just go with and run with. That's dangerous. That puts everyone in a bad spot. That sets a really bad precedent for so many other people who could just be randomly said that you did a thing. And the thing is, one, people don't write the retraction if you do. And two, people just believe stuff these days. Okay, so people are saying he does have a contract with YouTube. Okay, fine. So maybe that's a thing that gets pulled after these allegations happen, right? And a lot of people are like, hey, innocent until proven guilty. Cool. I totally rock with that, and I believe in that in a big way. But also, Man. Usually when these things happen, it is usually the victim and the perpetrator who are the ones who are the two people who have the he said, they said conversation. And that's where you break it down in between, right? You're like, all right, you're pitting these two people together and saying, I believe this one, or I believe this one because of this one has more public things to lose as opposed to this other person. Like, but the thing that keeps sticking with me is how many people have said a thing. I've had people in my own DMs who have like winked and nodded about some stuff, who I trust, who I know would know and also would not lie about something like this. Even the people who I know who don't like him are like, yo, it has nothing to do with not liking somebody. It has to do with the fact that it's what it is. So we'll see what that looks like in the next couple of weeks and months. We'll see what happens in terms of those larger conversations. And if it happens, we have a song for it. And if not, then he gets to walk away scot-free and do what he has to do. So that's the way that works. Next story going up this week is people are mad at me about me saying that I think trophies and achievements should go away. So I'm not going to stick onto this part really, really long. This is what I shared on X the other day. I would say controversial gaming take. And again, when I say controversial gaming take, I mean it. I said I would love to see both Xbox and PlayStation sunset achievements and trophies. And I still mean it. I still think, and the reason people got mad at me were a couple of angles to it. One, people were like the nostalgia of all of that stuff, of be able to go back and look at how many games you played and all those kinds of things. Two was the bragging rights thing, which I'm like, that's cool. And again, I want to preface this conversation by saying, whatever reasons and things that you find appealing about all these things, this is not me saying that I'm going to go lobby for them to take away your stuff. I'm just saying that there's a difference, and I'm going to say this with a big caveat. The caveat is all of these things are subjective, right? My like for achievements or trophies are very different than most people's. I also play video games in a lot of different ways than other people do. As a person who's playing a lot of games, and people who are who's reviewing a ton of content over a year, like those are the things that make me have this notion of what this is. Aaron Shack in the chat says people legit had meltdowns thinking you might actually have the power to do this. I thought that was very sweet. I thought it was very kind and very nice that people were like, oh, that Negro over there can take away all of my trophies and my achievements. I held my pearls and I said, woe is me, Lord Jesus. Please give me the power to take away all the gold and platinum trophies and all your gamer score in one moment, in one fail moment. Swoop, all of it goes away. So I was like, whatever. But again, I'm looking at this from a different perspective. I'm looking at this from a marketing perspective. I'm looking at this from a game playing perspective. I'm looking at this from a perspective of always trying to figure out other ways to give players value for what they like. And my value and perceived value is very different than what a lot of the folks on the internet have shared in their responses to me about this thing. And the takeaway here is, I wonder, is one, how much do people actually interact with stuff in this way? Two, is it something that if it did go away, would you feel the hit of it, right? Three, what is perceived value here? It's all those things that I just talked about. And then four, what is the things that I'm hoping to see that will potentially add value that I think is more tangible? Like, I want you to engage with trophies and achievements in a way that when you walk away from the rewards program, that's basically what this is. You say, oh, this is a cool thing that's not just cool. It is actually giving me things that I will use in the ecosystem that I'm in. Currently, all you get on the Xbox platform is you can tie it into Microsoft Rewards, which it does in a kind of sloppy way. I don't think it does it really, really well. Trophies give you absolutely nothing but bragging rights. They don't give you anything. There's no tie-in to any other stuff. There's none of those pieces that go along with those things. And one of the biggest conversations, or at least one of the biggest responses that I got back that I thought was really telling, was this one. And it was, trophies and achievements make me play a game. One, it gives me more replay value. And two, it makes me play the game in a way than I would usually play it. What I find interesting about version 2 or a reason 2 is, on one hand, folks are saying this is giving me a chance to play the game in a different way than I usually would. And one of the biggest critiques of the last 2 generations has been games are amazingly bloated. Developers are putting stuff in here that doesn't matter, and that we are looking at these games with all of this filler, and this is not equating to what we believe our financial value is for the games that we have. So people are like, oh, you took out all this other stuff and you gave me DLC in its to replace that because you didn't give us the full game. But in that game, we gave you all this other stuff that you probably wouldn't do and doesn't really add anything to the experience. Some of it does. Like someone talked about Spider-Man suits and stuff and finding all the suits. Those are dope, but you don't need achievements for that. That could just be a thing that you do. Finding the pigeons to give you this one thing in GTA, you could just do that. That could be a thing. That could be a quest. You make that a quest, and then you get something at the end of it. So I think the interesting part about these layers of the conversation is, well, Ariel Knight says, and shout out to Ariel Knight, whose new game is coming out very, very soon. We Never Yield. We got to get you on the show, Ariel, to come on and talk about it. He says, seems like the problem is more that you want to get more from them and not get rid of them. I think the way to get the most value from the systems that we have is to burn it down and start over. Because, and this is the reason why I say that, because there's a hard part in that equation right now where so many folks have built up gamer score and so many folks have built up trophies and all this other stuff that if you were to say, we're going to change the system and tie those into other things that you can then redeem, you wind up throwing the system off and saying, oh, if you had 700,000 gamer score or 1 million gamer score, that would equal like, here's like $2,000 in, Xbox credit that you could put towards as many games as you want. Xbox isn't going to fit the bill for that, right? They're not going to do that and take whatever those pieces are and then connect the through line to make those equations in that way. What would happen is you'd wind up getting something that's really, really kind of bad and arbitrary and being like 0.5 of every gamer score equals 2 cents on the dollar to whatever. And then whatever. It winds up like you go into Coinstar and being like, yo, I gave you 3,000 cans and all I got back was like $100 or some shit. I can't do math, whatever. Right? I think what you wind up doing is if you make all of those things matter, you start over and you say, yes, you got all those things. Those are cool. You got your kudos. You got your, I beat this game on the highest level, whatever, blah, blah, blah. If you take all that and you scrap it and you say, all right, we're going to start from the beginning again. But now these things are going to give you value. Every time you get a bronze trophy, that's, there's 1,000, what is it per game? I think you get like basically 1,000 score of what that equals to get to a platinum trophy. So 1,000 trophy score or whatever it may be equates to like $10 in the PSN store, right? Or whatever gamer score equals however much money that you get to go back into the Xbox store. right? I want those things to equate to something that you can use on a daily basis, monthly basis, yearly basis to improve your experience on those platforms outside of just bragging rights. And yes, I didn't say that in the first tweet because I wanted to see what the temperature was going to be for even saying that. And honestly, sometimes I tweet stuff out not giving a shit about the actual response. Like, I'm not actually like engagement farming when I say things online. 99% of the stuff that I actually do want to promote and be like, yo, go look at this, go check at this and this kind of stuff, most of that stuff doesn't even get looked at. But the stuff that I throw out there that's just like, here's a thought that I had when I was taking a poop, those wind up popping off in weird ways like these, which I think is fine. But the anger that I saw coming back from it was really weird and telling, because it is, man, even if those things went away, you are so invested in those things and you still don't get anything. It's a weird thing to be invested in when you really don't tangibly get anything but the ability to say to somebody else, I'm better than you. Or that I am proficient at the thing that I tried to do in that moment. That to me as a human emotion loop is just weird to me personally. I think it's fine. I think people will do it. But like, those things are weird. Shreddy Kruger says, not to rehash the conversation, but I don't see why the achievements are the problem. Respectfully, it sounds like you want pay to earn achievements, which seems like something no one is asking for. I'm asking for the opposite. I'm saying if you're going to spend your time doing all this mundane dumb shit, you should be rewarded for it. So, like, some of it is really mundane stuff. Yes, again, if it's stuff that you're having that brings you joy in and it adds to the it's an additive layer to your video game experience, that's fine. But 90% of trophies out there don't do that. If you even ask most developers hate having to figure out ways to engage with those systems. They actively have talked about why it adds at least another layer of not a ton of development time or cycles, but like it's a thing you have to account for in a way that, again, might not necessarily add anything to the full overarching experience of what that game is trying to do. And that's true. Like another great point in the chat from Aaron says, funny thing is having lots of trophies doesn't make you a better gamer than anyone else. I got called out the other day for this because supposedly I didn't have trophies on a game that I played. There's a reason that's the case. In reviews, sometimes trophies are turned off because they don't want people to see those trophies if they go live, or if you have your profile public and you're reviewing a game ahead of the time the public sees it. Sometimes they pop after that. Most times they don't. At least that's the way it's been on the Xbox platform. Most times when you're playing a Sony game, they ask you, hide those games from the public. Because, again, don't want people to see stuff ahead of time that you don't need. So, like, I finished a chapter. I got a bronze trophy for that. That's a part of the normal gameplay loop that I would have had to have gotten to the end of that game anyway. Why do you get a pat in the back for doing that? That doesn't seem... I'm struggling to find the value in that. Again, this is a solely Khalif opinion on a lot of these things. But I find it really interesting and funny that people are so tied to all of those parts of the ecosystem without actively thinking about, what am I spending my time on? Is it making my gaming experience better or different in a way that feels good to me? Yes, serotonin is hitting when you're getting those pops of those achievements. The reason why they do it. But also, there's a way to be able to do that. Shreddy also says maybe it should be on the developer to have players redeem them for money off DLC or microtransactions. Or, because there's a system within it, you have to put in a certain amount of trophies that lead up to a certain amount of gamer score or a certain amount of trophy score anyway, right? If you're going to do that, the incentive would be, as a player, would be, oh, I really want that trophy not only for the bragging rights and for whatever it may be, because you would have to supplant trophies and achievements with something else that is the shiny thing that's not just money. But an added benefit is, damn, I platinumed that game. That gave me enough money to buy another month of PSN or Xbox Live. I mean, or Game Pass or whatever. That's dope. That's like fire that you'd be able to do that, right? That would be a cool thing to be able to see and be like, oh, that would be really cool to be able to be like, yo, I did all that stuff, spent all this money, did all those things, and then I could also use that money to buy my next game or my next 3 months of Game Pass or my next PSN thing or save up enough money and go buy a new DualSense or something. So I think there's conversations in there to be had. I appreciate the fact that everybody got mad at me, and I'm going to go call Phil right now to tell him to take it away. We're going to take a 2-minute break, and then I'm going to talk about a game that I've been playing on the back half of the show. We'll be right back after this. All right, chat. We're about to get back into it. Back into the show with some of what we've been playing. So massive love to everybody who's out there hanging out and chilling and all that good stuff. All right, let's get back into the show. Yo, welcome back to the Spawn on Me podcast with Khalif Adams. I'm your host, Khalif Adams. I have been rocking with all of you here, and it has been a fantastic show. I love when chat is super engaged with it here on Twitch, YouTube, and on X. So it's always great to be able to talk to you and bring you into the show with the conversations and comments that you have been sharing during our broadcast. So I have been playing through EA's F1 2024, and I want to say, look, besides Elden Ring, which has been kicking my ass, which I'm going to talk about in a later show once I've gone to therapy, after getting beat down for many times over many deaths over many of that stuff, I have been looking to play other things that are kind of like taking my mind off of the usual games that I play. I've been wanting to learn more about driving games. I've been wanting to learn more about Sims. I've been wanting to learn more about the F1 space because there's been so many cool people who I know who are really digging F1 races and all of the stuff that's been happening in that space. So the wonderful folks over EA sent over a copy of EA F1 for me to check out. And my time with it has been really, really interesting. I think it's not going to be a super in-depth conversation for this episode, only because I'll be fully honest, I am a F1 noob. I don't know a ton about the world of F1, but I think this is a good gateway drug to learning about what this can be. So I think the thoughts that I have for this are kind of twofold. One, which is one, what would a novice come into this game looking for and trying to understand, and how does the game kind of relay that to you? And then two, what are the kind of like base mechanics here that are kind of appealing and interesting? And of course, there'll be a little bit of conversation about some of the quick modes that are in there. So the thing that is kind of the most weird about this game is that, at least from what I can tell in the time that I've spent with it, I can't really find a base layer tutorial about the proper way to drive an F1 vehicle. I've played a couple of different versions of this in years past, and I felt like there was at least a little bit more of some kind of hand holding in the ways that it tells you stuff. Like, assists are always going to be on for most of the driving games that I play. I don't need to be the hardcore dude who's getting the 3 monitors set up and all that stuff, although I do have a racing wheel in that way. Someone in the chat, Aaron, says they don't have racing lines like Forza. They do have racing lines, so you can kind of see, when you should be braking into a turn and all that kind of stuff. So that's in the game. The footage that you're seeing, if you're watching us in video form, is from a gameplay video that EA has shared on their YouTube channel. But those things are super helpful. I think if you're looking to get into the game like this game is beautiful. Like the way they kind of showcase weather and all of those things really does bring something very special to it. I think that feel of that tightness to the sides of the road and the courses that you're on really does come through super well. I think the force feedback isn't as good as something that you would find in Forza or Gran Turismo. They didn't do that really super deep, like minute detail of feeling every version of the track feel a little bit different. That didn't really come through in the time that I've spent with the game so far, which has probably been like an hour or so of the game. 30 minutes so far, 32 minutes or so. Because I wanted to check out some normal races, a little bit of the career mode, and also just like how it feels when you're in there and what the tutorial system looks like. So I've been in there for like 30 minutes or so. And it feels super competent. I think if you're looking for that fast, really tight racing vibe, this game is brilliant. I think if you're looking for really deep layers of gameplay here, I think they can be found, but I think you have to go a couple layers deep. And I think, to be fair, you have to take off some of the assists. The driving in this is a lot tighter than it usually is. I've seen a lot of other folks talk about the new racing model here, where it feels like the terminology is like, feels like your car is glued to the track. I personally don't mind that because I want to have fun while I'm driving in these games. I don't really like the super sim versions of games because you have to learn exactly how to drive those cars in those ways. And, I will turn some off to kind of give me less of an advantage when it comes to just being able to play, because I don't want to beat every race and beat the AI every time, right? That's not fun either. So you're trying to find that good balance within there. So I feel like driving feels really good. I do want to try it with my racing wheel because I do want to see what that feels like. I think that'll be another level of immersion that I think will really bring it home. But so far, it feels good, looks good, does all those things. But I really do wish it had like the baby tutorial. Like, this is the reason why you should be shifting. Here's why you should be downshifting. So you don't spin out at the beginning of a race. Make sure you're in this gear. Make sure when you're trying to pass that these are the ways that you should be doing some of this stuff. What do the point systems look like in these races? What does a season look like in all these conversations? Like, there's a lot of details and information that it just suspects that you know. And I feel like games that do that make it a lot harder for newbies to come in and really enjoy them in their fullest ways besides just driving on the road and feeling like if you're in that top 3 that you did something, or you're getting your points in that way. Secondarily, commentary in this game is very, very bland. I was hoping that there would be more details and touches about, like, in rally games, there's a lot of conversation happening from your coaches, because they're like, you have a quarter turn coming up, you have an S-curve coming up. Here are the things that I'm trying to prep you for while you're making these routes down the road. And I don't know, maybe that's a thing that we don't see, or maybe it's a thing that I'm not familiar with by watching a lot of F1 broadcasts. But I feel like in F1, people are in your headset a lot, and they're telling you a lot of stuff, like, when to brake, when to go in the pit, when to go, change your tires, all that kind of stuff. And I've run a couple of different races. I haven't run any crazy long ones like the Le Mans stuff, 24-hour stuff. But, like, those things don't come through in that way. And I was hoping for more of that. I started a kind of regular season so far. I'm in F2. I didn't start off in F1. So F2 is like the one class beneath F1 with my driver, Kamala Harris, who I've been using as my avatar for running in these races. And I'm having fun with it, but I'm feeling like I'm not getting all of the nuanced touches that you would want in a game like this. Now, in the career mode, you can also play as one of the premier races. They call it one of the 20. So you can play as one of the kind of 20 biggest well-known racers in the space. So if you wanted to kind of do that, you could. There's also a couple of folks who are there who are classic drivers, historic drivers in that way, so you can do a little bit of that stuff. But I feel like overall, I skipped a year while playing this series, and I come back to it in 2024, and it doesn't feel that different. And that, to me, is a little disheartening. They've tightened up some stuff. They've taken some things that you needed to do in terms of, like, team management and some of that stuff, and kind of made it so you don't have to do some of those pieces. But it still feels very bare bones in the ways that I want this game to feel like the Gran Turismo of F1. Because I still think, like, I love Forza. I think Forza does something very, very different, but I think Gran Turismo has that extra sauce in it from a feel perspective in that game. Like, even on a DualSense, you are feeling every bump in the road in a way that just translates to your controller, and it shows the power of the DualSense. And again, I've been talking about and hoping the Xbox gets a new controller, which they've talked about or got leaked, that has that level of immersion in it. But that's the reason why I lean on Gran Turismo more than I lean on a Forza game in that way, even as much as I love Forza. So, all that to say, I think the career stuff is good. I think it's reasonable. I think it's decent. And I think the experience, if you're just looking to race and kind of have that vibe and feel, like get in the cockpit view and play, and it feels great. But it just feels like there are pieces of it that could take a little bit more love and care. And I'm hoping that we get a chance to see more of that moving forward with this game in this series, because I think there's a real opportunity too, while F1 is still hot, to be able to get new people into it and get new people into the mode through the art of playing the game. I think, yeah, people are going to watch it, and who are going to watch it, and maybe you have someone who can talk you through it. But I think nothing beats play in the ways that bring you into that level of immersion. So I'm hoping that we get a chance to see more of that of late. So again, want to thank I want to again thank all of our friends at EA for sending this over and letting us play it. I'll be sharing this out to them so they can get a chance to see that we talked about the game and discussed it. But I want this game to feel a little bit beefier in what it offers you as a player and what it gives you in that F1 experience, because it looks and sounds amazing. When you're on the track, there is nothing that beats that sense of speed. There are very few games that I play in the cockpit mode, and F1 is one that I can't play out of it. Like, it feels too good to play in cockpit mode than to play in anything else, because you just feel like, oh my God, this is wild. So, lots of goodness coming into the conversation for this week of Spawn on Me. I want to thank everyone for hanging and chilling and rocking with us here on the show. It is always great to be able to be with you all and get a chance to dig through all the news of the week and have conversations about what it means to be in this crazy wild world of video games. So massive love to you all for checking and hanging out with us on the Sunday afternoon. This will go up and be up on Monday morning, 6 a.m. PST. Check us out on Spotify to check out the video version. This will go up on YouTube probably Tuesday. So make sure you're going and giving us some love over there as well. Oh, massive love to see Wise in the chat. Good to see you, fam. And also, again, please support the show. We're looking to start the conversations around Spawnies again and sponsorship. We'll be getting our deck together to share that around with other people and brands and all that. If you know anyone who is in the space who wants to support our show, supporting developers of color and folks from underrepresented, marginalized spaces, please let me know. Send them my way so we can get them into the show and make something extremely dope happen. And until then, we're going to get up out of here and hang out. I'm going to go get some food and go watch the rest of the game. And then get some time in before going to work tomorrow, because tomorrow is Monday. And also, I got to go get back into Elden Ring and get some games in, because, man, they kicking my ass. They're kicking my ass under the Erd Tree. The Erd Tree is beating my ass. So, until next week, much love to you all. See you all soon. Peace.